The World Trade Organization and the UN Food and Agriculture Organization predicts that fertilizer shortfall and prices could worsen in 2023, continuing a trend that began in 2020 at the height of COVID-19 pandemic. CNBC Africa's Julius Bizimungu spoke to Adam Zoke, manager for international markets at Rokosan Limited, for more.
From my forecast, I think the situation on the fertilizer market is going to be worse than it was in 2022. From our research, we found out that the situation was becoming less stable for the last 2 years in regards to the prices of the fertilizer. However, I think this year we can expect another spike in prices of the fertilizer. If we are talking about fertilizer types which are going to be affected, I would like to say that most of the major fertilizer types are going to be affected a lot by the factors which I'm going to explain right now. Currently, we are looking into the situation in Europe, for example, where most of the fertilizer plants were very much affected by the sanctions between European Union, which were imposed to Russia because of the Ukrainian conflict. Since most of the fertilizer is based on production of nitrogen from urea, which is very much based on delivery of natural gas, we can see big spike of prices in this industry. When we are looking at the expectation for this year, I think situation is not going to be much stable than it was last year. Of course, it's very hard to expect how the conflict in Ukraine is going to continue, but from our forecast, we should not expect prices of the fertilizer to drop down by the end of this year. Another problem which we can forecast is ammonia-based fertilizers, for which the production is heavily based on electricity consumption. Speaking just from the European point of view, we can see a huge spike in prices of the energy, which is causing a problem in production and thus making the fertilizers much more expensive. This is just the Europe, but this situation regarding the Ukrainian and Russian conflict is affecting the whole world. A lot of sanctions are being imposed. So the fertilizer from Russia, which was easily accessed by many countries, is currently off limits or it's very scarce. So we can see the situation worsening every day. If we are looking at another opportunities, or let's say things which are influencing fertilizer industry, we can see a huge push for the decarbonization of nitrogen industry, which will require a lot of investments, and those investments are going to be projected into prices of the fertilizer. So from my point of view, this is one of the biggest problem of the fertilizer market, that the price is going to be higher for the traditional types of the fertilizer, and at the same time they will be not as accessible to the farmers in Africa.
And tell me, Adam, when you look at yourself, you're one of the largest producers and suppliers of liquid fertilizers. What is happening in that space in regard to increasing prices? And of course, you talked about the sanctions having an impact on most of the fertilizer plants, and some have had to cut, the operations, the production. Is that also happening at your factory?
Mm-hmm. So Rokosan produces fertilizer from alternative sources. So we are not using natural gas, and most of the inputs we are adding, their prices were not as affected as in other industries. However, we can see a smaller addition to the prices. However, it's not catastrophic. From our point of view, we created Association of Organic Fertilizer Producers of Slovakia, and we are uniting more than 10 producers in Slovakia who are producing fertilizer without natural gas or huge electricity requirements. And I think this is one of the chance or opportunities for African countries to use such technologies which do not require huge resources. So in point of view of overcoming the additional problems with the financing of plant nutrition, our recommendation is to try innovative methods in farming, like soil mapping, using drones in agriculture, at the same time using alternative sources of plant nutrition instead of the traditional urea, NPK, and DAP, or combine it with biostimulants and organic fertilizer. At the same time, I need to say that it's very important to look into ecological plant protection, which will enhance the production capacity of the farmers. And at the same time, it's very important to increase the natural capability of soil to hold water, because even if you have the best fertilizer on the market, if you don't have water in your farm, you're not going to grow anything.
Tell me, right now, most of countries that rely on imports of fertilizers are struggling, especially those here in Africa. And you've seen with the increasing prices of fertilizers, obviously it means international fertilizer supplies are going to be restricted in 2023. And at the same time, you're looking at countries such as China, continuing to restrict exports of fertilizers, and some countries in Europe as well. Do you think these restrictions are really justified, and what should be the way out for countries in Africa?
Mm-hmm. So this is a very important topic, because I think that in age of globalization, it's really unfair to restrict access to such important resources as fertilizers to any country. I think that the political struggle should not affect people in Africa in that way that they will not be able to produce crops on their farms because of the fertilizer prices and scarcity. I think the way out is to support local production. This is what we were saying for more than 5 years already, that without locally produced fertilizers, we cannot break the cycle of the hunger and problems of the farmer in Africa. In my point of view, there is a great transformation of African economies, because we can see that many major fertilizer companies are building their plants in Rwanda, in Kenya, in Nigeria. But I think this should be also spread into other countries, because the potential is there, the raw material is there, and what is the important, the workforce is there, which is prepared to work. So I would like to say that in current times, it's unspeakable to think about restricting access to the fertilizer to farmers, not only in Africa, but also in Asia and Latin America and so on.